Welcome GRD 122, Graphic Design 2 to your first project, your book cover where we're going to incorporate some colorization techniques that you've practiced already and do some layout and start working with typography. And I'm kind of revising this so we can do it with Photopea and Figma, which shouldn't be a problem because we're just going to use Figma as a layout program and we're going to do most of our colorizing work in Photopea. And we have lots of text abilities to work with in Figma, and we can also export it as a PDF from Figma, which is what we did in Illustrator last spring. So let me just kind of mention a couple things. You're going to do a book cover, and you could find a person or event from history or just something that interests you. And it doesn't even have to be a black and white image. You can have a color image, make it black and white, and then colorize it. But you're going to colorize it and kind of work on it from there. Now, I'm updating these notes right now. Some of it still says InDesign. We used InDesign in the past as our layout program. We'll use Figma. It shouldn't really matter because we're just working with some text and we're working with an image. Now, you're going to have three main files. You're going to have a Photoshop file that you're going to do in Photopea. You're going to have a JPEG, which you're going to generate from Photopea. You're going to export it out. That'll be your flattened version. And then you're also going to have a Figma file where you're going to complete your layout with your text and your text effects and all that. And finally, you're going to generate it as a PDF file, which will be your final kind of portfolio type image that you're going to do or document. And you're going to start in Photoshop or Photopea, and you're going to find an image. Now, before I go further, let me show you some examples. So I'm going to go into Preview and show you some examples from the past. Some of these are from students. Some of these are ones that I worked on. Now, this one is a student one. This is using a military theme. Use some serif text over here, match the color to the image, has kind of a main title and a subtitle and the author's name. And it even has New York Times bestseller and a little kind of badge along the bottom. And has a nice kind of unified color theme all throughout with the text. Has kind of a serif font, which kind of goes more traditional with military, although you could certainly find some slab serifs that look more military as well. And let's look at another one. And again, this was black and white and colorized. And this was a black and white ballerina image that was colorized and uses a nice script font up here. And it even uses a italic font, which typically they might compete a little bit, but they don't look bad up there. And then it's using a regular version in all caps or small caps down here for the title, and it's pulling out that kind of peachy pink kind of color. It even throws on a New York Times bestseller list badge on there. You don't have to do that, but kind of a neat layout here, especially using this area, this empty area for the title in here. Here's one. This next one is a military theme. Now this one has some issues. It doesn't have who wrote it, and it has this title in a block up here which doesn't have much space around it, and it's all different colors, and tragedy is spelled wrong, so I'm not a big fan of this part of it or any of the text elements, but it's a really neat image that was colorized, and certainly you can update that and put the author down here and make that look a whole lot better than this thing here. This one is tugging at your heartstrings, has an old Elvis-like photo here of a small child, colorized very subtly, some fade out over here, so you kind of take away some background, kind of blur that out. You can even blur it out with a brush. And they use two images here, and then there's an image of a dog here and a sneaker, and that was all colorized. Very nice type work here. I like this kind of slab serif, very thin slab serif looking font here. It has a nice look to it. Almost reminds me of those little things that you kind of snap off and you label things, those red labels, vinyl labels with the white type. But it has a real nice look, nice flow to it, nice top left to bottom right flow to it. Really nice. This next one, this is the one I did last year in spring of 22 because I got into beer and stuff like that, and I was reading history books on beer, and I just found an old-time picture of a brewery and stuff. This was early 1900s, I guess, and did all the colorization in Photoshop and then brought it into Illustrator, but in our case, we're going to bring it into Figma and then apply the text. And you can see I use this kind of a large cap and a large cap at the end kind of look up here for the title, and even repeated it down here in my name. Even down here in my name, I even put a little block of semi-transparent color so you could read my name a little bit better. That's another way to do that. Instead of always getting away with shadows and outlines, sometimes you just need to put something over it so you can read it. Just like they did here, he just used it as a divider. Instead of trying to figure out how to divide this into two, put the title there, which is a really nice idea. So here's mine, has that kind of old-time look to it, used a lot of kind of traditional serif fonts for that, and used a lot of beigey kind of colors. I didn't know what colors they were. I just did a lot of blue and green and gray and brown and stuff. Figured that's what they looked like. So I just kind of guessed when it came to colorization. This was one I did a couple years ago, and I even have a thing on my Homa Studio channel of colorizing this, which is kind of a neat exercise to work on. But I colorized this and then put a badge along the bottom with New York Times bestseller, like the first one, have my name here, and just a big main title up here. And on this one, I just kind of faded out kind of the background. Because on some of these, the pictures will end at the top. They don't always work well on a book format. So let me show you something. I'll go into Photopea just to show you beginning, and then I'll record another video of going over it a little bit more. But I'm going to go to Photopea just to show you how the one with the brewery worked. Now, this is the brewery picture. Now, you can see it didn't fit in a book very well, so I just kind of put it on the bottom half. Again, I colorized the building. I put that in the back. I put on a raster mask, so it looked like that. And now this will line up better. And I did the barrels. I did blue clothing. I did warm black clothing. I did cool black clothing. I did green clothing. I did red, put a little red on there, little touches of red here and there. And I did the skin, just like in that black and white kid thing. And I think I didn't use this eventually, but I did bring in a picture of a truck. And you could do this with like a white border and put a drop shadow on it. You could take any photo. So if you have a problem with a photo that's going to fit in the whole thing, or you need to bring in multiple photos, you could do something like this. I think I started working on this. I brought in some red in here. I brought in some yellow, and I did some of the barrels. I don't know if I did a whole lot. And I did some of the clothing. So I colorized that one too. And I think you can make layer folders in here. I'll have to double check as I go through it. I'll do some of this again and demonstrate some of this, what I did, but most of it's what you did in some of the practice exercises already with the bridge and with the black and white kid and with the farm. Except we're going to try to use the method where we use the effects and the color overlay, so you can always paint in black and you could always go back and change it later. And I think that's it. So then when you're done with this part, when you're happy with this part, and again, I ended up not using the little picture of the truck in the middle. I thought it was too much. I thought it looked nice just with that area for a title up there. What you're going to do once you have a title in here is you're going to export this as a JPEG. So that'll be flattened. It won't have any of these layers. It'll be flattened, and you're going to bring that into Figma. And now I'm going to go over what to do in Figma next, but I'm going to use this just to give you an idea. So I'm going to use this image to show you what to do in Figma next, but I'll go over the Figma part. So this is going to be the first part. You're not going to do any of the text in here. You're not going to do any of that. You're just going to colorize an image and kind of set it up nicely for your book cover. And I'll show you the size that you're going to do. Actually, this one is, you're going to do it 5 by 7 1/4, which I have here. I have in the instructions, so I'll give you written instructions too. And we're going to do it at 216 pixels per inch. We'll try to keep it in 72 pixels increments. So that would be 3 times 72. So we're going to do that. Do it as 216. I think I did it as 200 in the past, but we'll do it like that. And the reason I'm doing that is because in Figma works in all pixels. So we'll try to keep it in proportion to the pixels so we could set it there. So I'll show you that in Figma when we do that. But basically in Figma, we're going to create an image that's the same size as that and then just work on our text in there. So I'm going to do that in the next video. So in the meantime, if you want to start looking up some things, here I was looking up history of brewing, any of this kind of stuff. Remember, when you look up images, make sure they're not too small. Now this is great. That has 2000 by 1500. As long as it's over 600, close to 1000 is better. If it's down to 400, it's not going to be good quality, especially when you make it bigger. So try to keep it, I said 600, but try to keep it closer to 1000. You should see probably larger DPI images online, even if they're older images. So this is kind of a cool image to work with. So it's a lot of work, a lot of color and clothing. Especially if they're all the same clothing, that's easy. But if it's different, that's hard. But that's kind of a neat image to work with. So in my next video, maybe I'll try to use something else if I can. If not, just to get you started, you're going to find something like that and bring it into Photopea. So I'll show you in the next video how to set up the Photopea documents and how to set up the Figma documents, so you know how to do that. So I'll go through that. I won't do all the colorization and all that kind of stuff, but I'll kind of get it started. and show you what to do. And then I'll show you what to do in Figma as well. It'll take a little time. You'll spend most of your time in Photopea first doing all this kind of stuff, and then you're going to go in Figma. That won't take long. You'll just bring in the image, you'll place the JPEG into Figma, and then you'll just kind of work on some text and kind of do your layout, and then export it as a PDF file. So that's what's coming up next in part 2 of this video. So start looking around, start getting ideas of something you'd like to do, something that interests you, something where it might be cool to colorize an old-time photo, or even to take a regular photo. Actually, one thing I forgot to show you here in preview, I think I missed one here. Here's one. This is a nice colorizing photo. Now, it's not an old-time photo, it's a kid on a skateboard, but he made this black and white and then colorized it, or whoever did it, I don't even remember who did it. And you know, it's a really nice colorization job because this was turned into black and white. And there's one down here. You might just look at this and say, well, this looks like you know, just a Japanese guy in color, but this was actually turned into black and white and colorized. So it's a really nice colorization job. Has the author down here. It has the title across and kind of a semi-transparent badge. Nice combination of some italic type, serif type, and this kind of papyrus looking type, which goes with kind of the Japanese theme there, I assume. And here's the last one, last example. This is Chuck Berry colorizing the iconic red guitar and some other things here. Some of it's left a little bit subtle in the back so that he stands out. So you can always colorize parts of it and leave other parts black and white. That's a neat technique too, that you have some colorized elements and some black and white to really bring that forward. So he really comes forward based on, you know, being in color, and everything else goes into the background a little bit more. Now I might adjust this a little bit. It's a little, I'd move him over just a little bit more to have more room with this, or make this a little smaller. But otherwise, you know, some nice layouts here, all different kinds of things. And, you know, use this as an idea. Again, let me just show you, again, just for your ideas, you know, military stuff, ballerinas, military, kid and his dog stuff, brewing, Maryland. Now, I didn't do anything with sports. If you're into sports, lots of cool old-time sports, football, baseball, whatever, fishing, hunting, anything. You know, military, people are doing kind of Japanese stuff here, and music, entertainment, whatever you think, military again. So whatever kind of is an interest of yours, you know, have fun with it. You want to be working on something that interests you. So if you're a big fan of something, I know you're going to say, well, I'm into games or something. I don't know, maybe you could do an old style game or something, but just to give you some ideas. So again, these are examples of the layouts. We're going to be working in Photopea first and colorizing, and then flattening it, making it a JPEG, and then putting it all together to get something like this. And this will be what the final layout will look like. So this will be done in Figma. This is in preview right now because this is the finished PDF, but this can be laid out in Figma, and it will be easy to do that. Whether we did it in Illustrator or InDesign, it'll be fine because we can do strokes, we could do shadows, we can work with text. We have lots of great typefaces to work with in Figma, so it's a nice program to work with. We could place in our image very easily and work with text on top of it. So I'll be going over some of those processes next. So absorb this a little first as you get started and start looking around and thinking about your ideas.